What if a treaty meant to unite the world against a common enemy was actually a secret weapon against one nation? Welcome to Class Bites. Today, we're uncovering the hidden agenda of the Anti-Comintern Pact. What if an international treaty, presented to the world as a shield against a global ideology, was in reality a sharpened spear aimed at the heart of a single powerful nation? On the 25th of November 1936, such an agreement was forged, an instrument of public posturing and secret intent that would irrevocably alter the course of global politics. This was the Anti-Comintern Pact, officially titled the Agreement Against the Communist International, a document signed in a climate of rising tension and ideological warfare. The signatories, Nazi Germany and the Empire of Japan, came together through their representatives, the German ambassador at large Joachim von Ribbentrop and the Japanese ambassador to Germany Kintomo Mushinokoji. Their signatures bound their nations in a pact that, on its surface, declared a united front against the perceived menace of international communism, but whose true purpose lay hidden in clandestine protocols and unspoken ambitions. The pact was ostensibly directed against the Communist International, an organization known as the Comintern, which advocated for world communism. The public text of the agreement was carefully crafted to project an image of defensive cooperation. It declared that the signatories were cognizant of the fact that the object of the Communist International was the disintegration of and the commission of violence against existing states. In response to this perceived threat, Germany and Japan undertook a solemn commitment to consult with one another on the necessary preventive measures and to carry these through in close collaboration. The agreement further stipulated that the two nations would keep each other informed of the operations of the Comintern, effectively establishing a shared intelligence network to monitor and counteract communist activities. To broaden their front, the pact included an open invitation for other countries who felt their domestic tranquility was jeopardized by the subversive work of the Communist International to join their efforts. This public declaration served as a powerful propaganda tool. For leaders like Adolf Hitler in Germany and Benito Mussolini in Italy, it allowed them to cast themselves as the stalwart defenders of Western values, standing firm against the rising tide of Soviet communism. They were not aggressors, this narrative suggested, but protectors of order, tradition, and national sovereignty against a revolutionary force that sought to dismantle it all. However, beneath this veneer of ideological defense lay a far more specific and strategic objective. The pact was, by clear implication, aimed squarely at the Soviet Union. For Japan, the motivations were immediate and born of regional conflict. The Japanese government was deeply angered by the Soviet-Chinese Non-Aggression Treaty, which had been signed in August of 1936. This agreement between their regional rival, China, and the communist superpower to their north was seen as a direct threat to Japanese interests in the region. The subsequent sale of Soviet military aircraft and munitions to China only intensified these fears, providing tangible support to the very forces Japan was seeking to dominate. The Anti-Comintern Pact, therefore, offered Japan what it desperately wanted, a powerful European ally to counterbalance Soviet influence in Asia. The Japanese signatories had entered the negotiations hoping that the agreement would function as an effective military alliance against the Soviet Union, and this was precisely how the Soviets themselves perceived it. They saw not a defensive measure against an ideology, but the formation of a hostile bloc on their western and eastern borders. The true nature of the pact was enshrined not in its public articles, but in a secret additional protocol that accompanied the main text. This clandestine addendum stripped away all pretense of a purely ideological crusade and laid bare the pact's military and strategic core. It specified a joint German-Japanese policy aimed exclusively against the Soviet Union. The protocol stipulated that in the event of an unprovoked attack by the Soviet Union against either Germany or Japan, the other signatory would not take any measures which would tend to ease the situation of the Soviet Union. They also agreed to consult immediately on what measures to take to preserve their common interests. Crucially, the secret protocol bound the two nations to a pact of mutual non-assistance toward the Soviets, stating that they would do nothing to support Soviet policies. Furthermore, it imposed a significant constraint on their diplomatic freedom, requiring them to conclude no political treaties with the Soviet Union, contrary to the spirit of the agreement, without mutual consent. This meant that neither Germany nor Japan could sign any agreements with the Soviet Union that did not have the explicit approval of the other, effectively locking them into a shared anti-Soviet foreign policy. A supplementary protocol further authorized Germany and Japan to take strong measures against those who work for the Comintern at home or abroad, granting the regimes a broad mandate to suppress internal dissent under the guise of anti-communist security. The pact soon began to attract other nations that shared a similar ideological orientation or strategic anxieties. In 1937, Fascist Italy, under the leadership of Benito Mussolini, formally joined the agreement. By the very terms of its entry, Italy was legally recognized as an original signatory, a diplomatic maneuver designed to elevate its status and present the alliance as a formidable trio of powers from its inception. The bloc continued to expand as the geopolitical landscape darkened. In 1939, both Spain, under the newly victorious regime of Francisco Franco, and Hungary joined the pact, further solidifying an axis of anti-communist and authoritarian states stretching across Europe and Asia. The Anti-Comintern Pact was rapidly evolving from a bilateral agreement into the foundation for a much broader military and political alliance, a coalition that would soon be known to the world as the Axis powers. Its existence significantly impacted the global balance of power, creating clear lines of division and escalating the tensions that were inexorably pushing the world toward a second global conflict. Yet, the very foundation of this anti-Soviet alliance was built on a cynical opportunism that would ultimately lead to a stunning act of betrayal. On the 23rd of August, 1939, the world was shocked by the announcement of the German-Soviet Non-Aggression Pact, an agreement in which the two ideological archenemies, Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union, pledged neutrality in the event of a conflict involving a third party. For Japan, this was a catastrophic diplomatic blow. The entire strategic basis of their adherence to the Anti-Comintern Pact was predicated on a shared, unwavering hostility toward the Soviet Union. Germany's sudden and secret rapprochement with their common enemy left the Japanese government feeling isolated and utterly betrayed. Outraged by what they saw as a profound breach of faith, Japan promptly renounced the Anti-Comintern Pact. The alliance that was meant to encircle the Soviet Union had been shattered by its own architect. This rupture, however, proved to be temporary. The relentless march of global events and the shifting calculus of war soon brought the former partners back into alignment, albeit under a new framework. On the 27th of September, 1940, Japan acceded to the Tripartite Pact, a new and more explicitly military alliance that formally bound Germany, Italy, and Japan together in a pledge of mutual defense. With the old grievances papered over by new strategic imperatives, the original spirit of the Anti-Comintern Pact was revived. In November of 1941, the pact itself was formally renewed, and its renewal ceremony saw the entry of several new members, further expanding the Axis coalition. From its inception as a carefully worded document of ideological defense to its evolution into a secret military pact, its shocking betrayal, and its eventual rebirth as a cornerstone of a global war machine, the Anti-Comintern Pact served as a stark and telling barometer of the turbulent and treacherous diplomacy of its time. It was a testament to how public pronouncements of principle could mask the raw pursuit of power, and how alliances forged in shared hatred could be just as fragile as they were dangerous. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and comment below with your thoughts or what you'd like to see next.